Corporate social responsibility. I know, CSR doesn't seem like the sexiest of topics, but it's actually a pretty huge idea. That business, even as it pursues profit maximization, also has a social responsibility. And I'm here to tell you that that social responsibility goes far beyond kind of shiny PR donations in your hometown. But actually, we, as the next generation of business leaders, have social responsibilities that are going to touch the lives of millions of people and can even affect some of the deepest human rights crises in our world. Before the GSB, one of the issues I focused on was human trafficking, forced labor in the seafood industry in Thailand, migrant workers being threatened, denied pay and passports, sometimes even killed on board Thai fishing boats. But then something changed, because these fishing boats were buried deep in the supply chains of the frozen shrimp we buy at Walmart or Costco. But then these brands were connected in the headlines to modern-day slavery, and they started paying attention. I saw this firsthand, sitting around the conference room table of the biggest seafood supplier in Bangkok. Once we had Walmart and Costco sitting at that table too, insisting on better labor standards, we started seeing changes in the industry that hadn't happened over years of activists banging on the doors. These companies were addressing huge supply chain and reputational vulnerabilities. They knew they had to be part of the responsible solution instead of being held responsible for the problem. That's just one example of this new business imperative and opportunity to reimagine responsible business. 3 numbers will help me make my case. They'll tell us the scope of this opportunity, why we should take advantage of it, and what's next. First, the scope of this opportunity and of business responsibility is bigger than you might think. It can even affect something as seemingly big and impossible as a distant civil war, because 90% is the share of the world's rubies that once came from Myanmar. But Myanmar isn't just famous for its rubies. It's also famous for its lingering military dictatorship and the wars that the military has been waging against minorities. Most recently against nearly 1 million Muslims, the Rohingya. I was working in Myanmar when news about these atrocities broke this summer, researching rubies. I found that famous military and those famous rubies are more linked than you might think. Because inside every war isn't just a central difference or disagreement, but also an economy. Because that same Burmese military has its roots sunk deep into Myanmar's economy. That means they can self-fund their officers and their wars, be insulated from the effect of things like international sanctions. That means that if we trace back the ruby from some extra special Valentine's gift, the odds are pretty decent that the original mining profits went back to the same Burmese military that's been waging war on its own people. Now, I'm not trying to just be a Valentine's buzzkill, or to say that you not buying a ruby can single-handedly save the Rohingya. But a company like Tiffany, asking the right questions, might help separate the Burmese military from its financial lifelines. Tiffany has avoided rubies pretty completely because of their responsible sourcing commitments. But this summer, before the Rohingya crisis, they were exploring it because they knew if a company as powerful as Tiffany could insist on sourcing with fair mining standards, transparency, and no military-owned mines, they might help Myanmar's clean ruby sector have the chance to thrive. They could be part of the responsible solution instead of being responsible for the problem. Now, you can still say, no, Mia, I can't afford a ruby ring, and I work on an online tech product. No conflict-affected supply chains. So, stepping closer to home, what about Facebook? Fake news hit Ukraine long before it became a buzzword here. Russian government propagandists making fake Ukrainian Facebook profiles and using those to drum up local fears and tensions. And Ukrainian human rights monitors say that where this disinformation warfare was strongest, actual violence has also been highest. So can Facebook really get away with separating its online platform from the offline effects it's enabling? Unilever just pulled their ad dollars until Facebook can clean up their fake news problem, because they'd rather be part of the responsible solution than be responsible for the problem. Next, $6.3 trillion. This is where we get to start building the business case for why good business can be good for business. Why we're going to have to start caring about things like the human rights impact of our work. 6.3 trillion is the value of assets under management at BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager. And their chairman, Larry Fink, just wrote a letter to CEOs, putting them on notice that BlackRock is going to become a more engaged investor, one demanding that its companies serve not only their shareholders, but also society. Vanguard CEO, with their 4.8 trillion, is planning to follow suit. And this is really my kind of competition. All that means that, this isn't going to be just about watered down CSR, but about integrating this into core business functions. So access to investment is one real reason that a whole variety of human costs now need to be built into your business's bottom line. I'll quickly give you 3 more. First, reputation. It's hard to quantify, but we all know it's incredibly important. A single scandal that links your brand to a human rights abuse, no matter how far away, it can be devastating for sales and reputation. And on the upside, companies with values-oriented reputations tend to suffer less of a stock hit when problems do come up. Second, there's improved supply chains. Applying a responsible sourcing lens means that you can reduce costs by building better supplier relationships or avoiding disruptions. Third, millennials like us care about choosing to work for places that are doing good. As millennials, nearly half of us in this room say our loyalty to our employer would increase if we knew our CEO was ahead of the pack on social issues. All this means that if you want to attract high-quality investment, earn a resilient reputation, build responsive supply chains, and get the best talent, you just have to figure out how to be part of the responsible solution, not responsible for the problem. Which brings me to my last number, 1. 1 person. That could be you. And not just your CSR team, but you. As you face your next business challenge, set standards for your company and its values. Measure against them. Commit to digging into hard problems instead of walking away. There's no easy playbook for this, but we now know we have to figure it out. It's asking, who and where are all the people whose lives are affected by this business choice? From website to farm to factory to mine. And so the last number is one of hope. Because real CSR doesn't have to be a burden. It can be the next business opportunity. It starts with one responsible person asking one responsible question, getting on the path toward being responsible, not for the problem, but for the next solution. Thank you.